Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you're lost. I'm Chatty and welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where I will be chatting away madly about what I've been reading so far in September. So this is possibly week 1 or 2. I think we've probably trickled into week 3, but never mind, we're just going to talk about it anyway. So here we go, Scary Biscuits moment. I don't have any notes. Yay! Let's see what happens. Cheers. This could all be chaos because if you didn't know, I don't edit my videos. I just do one shot, keep rolling and then post it because my computer can't cope with editing. Tragic. So what have I been reading? Well, I started off this month by reading The Ally of Law by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know why I needed to check the title. I know what book this was, but just in case I picked up the wrong one, perhaps that's what it was. So this is the first book in the Mistborn Era 2. So if you've not read any Brandon Sanderson, there is a series of books called the Mistborn series. The first one being The Final Empire, where it's kind of a sort of medieval-ish world. I mean, they don't have horses, but they have swords. Whereas this world, Era 2, is kind of like set 300 years later after the events in Mistborn, and it's more of a Wild West 1800s kind of era, shall we say. And they have guns. They have pistols. There is sort of a cannon No, don't think we've come across any cannons. Don't know why I'm talking about cannons. I'd be reading too many pirate books. They have pistols. They have pistols and guns. Rifles. There we go. They have rifles. That's what I was looking for. I don't know guns. So yes, shooty things, bang bang, as opposed to the long pointy things that go poke poke. So this is why I need notes. I've already got off on random tangents talking about the best ways to badly describe weapons. Excellent. Sure, great. Magic systems. It has an amazing magic system. There are allomancers who ingest metal, and depending on their misting ability, a different type of metal will give them their power. So you tend to have one metal and then you will have a power if you ingest that metal. In the previous series, you had Mistborns where they would have a variety of metals, ingest them, and then they would have like 8 different powers. In this one's Mistborns are very much kind of like myth and legend. And we just have ones who have different powers. So for example, our protagonist in here, Wax, is a coin shot where he has the ability to push on metal. But once your reserves run out, you no longer have that ability. So Brandon Sanderson really excels well at hard magic systems. So there are limits to what you can do, which perfectly adds into kind of the drama and tension of the moments. Now, I had such an amazing time. This is a reread for me. I've read it. I basically kind of binged the whole of the Mistborn series. Like I hadn't read new fantasy for such a long time. My brother Matty introduced me to the Final Empire and I couldn't get enough. It was like I'd been starved of amazing fantasy. So that was a few years ago, 2 years ago. I can't quite remember. But anyway, I'm rereading this because the 4th book is coming out and it's so nice to be back. It's so nice to be back with these characters. Now, I actually really love Era 2 because I think Brandon Sanderson's writing's improved. There was slightly kind of angsty moments in Era 1, and I'm not a huge fan of angst, so I much preferred this one. I enjoyed more of the banter in this. I felt the female characters are more fully formed. So I enjoyed all of that aspect in here, and I really enjoyed how you get like the history of the world in these, and I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time. Actually, I think I enjoyed it more because I think in the first one, because I was just scrambling through them, and I know this was my least favourite of the 3, and I think I just felt they kept getting better and better. But reading this one again, it was like reminding me, this is still really good. It's a great fun adventure. You have kind of more of a detective feel to it. So the 2 main protagonists, Wax and Wayne, they come from the Roughs, which is kind of like your out west lands where they were like the sheriffs, and he's come back into the city for various different reasons, where they have a police force and it's supposed to be safer and more secure. actually it's kind of worse. We also meet Marisi, who is studying like law and order at university and has ambitions to join the police force. We get to meet a bunch of other characters as well who are great fun, and it's a wild ride. It's so much fun. There's more magic abilities now. There's more metals that produce different powers, which is great fun to learn about, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's not ready yet, so I'm not going to tell you what they are because reading about it is so much fun. So this was so delightful. I love all the character moments in here. I love all the relationships. There's a lot of depth to them, and that kind of comes out more in the next books, but this was like a perfect setup to the series, and I had a brilliant time. This is also kind of a much needed book for me because the book I read previously was Ship of Destiny, and that destroyed me. So it was and I get a book hangover after reading Robin Hobb. It's just like, oh, what do I read now? So it was so nice to have like a comfort read, and it just really just got me back into reading immediately, so I didn't kind of hit a slump. So yeah, this was fabulous. I then read I started reading Ship of Shadows, and then I felt like that I wasn't going to fully enjoy it because I was still slumpy from Robin Hobb. Then I picked up Ally of Law, and then I went back to this one and was kind of cured of my book hangovers. So I was able to kind of fully immerse myself in Ship of Shadows because I knew it was going to be a book that I was really, really going to enjoy, and I wanted to do it justice, and I absolutely did. So Ship of Shadows is a middle grade fantasy by Maria Kuznia, and it is an absolutely fantastic middle grade fantasy. So if you love them, I feel this will be right up your street. There is a wonderful protagonist in here. The characters are delightful. There's a wonderful kind of side cast of characters and like found family. There is an adorable, it's not a pet, but that kind of companion of an animal type. And I don't want to tell you any more because I don't want to spoil it, but it's so cute. So if you've read this, I think you know what I mean, which is adorable. And when you get on the ship, so this legendary Ship of Shadows, so our protagonist, I can't remember, I get her name wrong. They say at some point in here how you pronounce her name. I think it's Alicia, but it's spelt Aleja, and I kept pronouncing the J, but I wasn't supposed to. So I think it's Alicia. We're going to go with Alicia, and apologies if I'm saying her name totally wrong. But Alicia is from Spain, and she really wants to be able to go on a ship. And she spends her nights kind of reading at the library, like all these lore and legends and all about these wonderful lands, and is kind of teaching herself languages. But obviously she's a girl, and so she's kind of made fun of within her sort of community for wanting to be able to go on a ship. They're like, that's just not going to happen for you. But then the legendary Ship of Shadows, which is run by female pirates, pulls into port, and Alicia kind of falls in with them and ends up on their ship. And then the journey really starts off. So there's a lot of intrigue, there's a mystery. What do these pirates do? Where do they all come from? What are their own individual stories? What's the story behind this legendary ship? And the ship is wonderful whimsy. It is just delightful. It's so much fun. It's like, if you enjoy magical stuff, and if you like middle grade lands where you'd kind of like to go and visit because they're not too scary but they're lots of fun, you're gonna love the ship. It's brilliant. And there's a really nice found family feeling on here. She makes great friends, and I had such a fantastic time with this book. It seems to have got a diverse cast. They end up in Morocco at one point, and one of the characters has got an amputated arm. So there is a character with a physical disability in here, and a same-sex relationship. So there is a good representation of people, and it's just so much fun. And I really can't wait to get the second one, which has been out for a while, and I'm on a book buying ban, but I want to own it. I don't want to get it from the library. So Christmas wish list, perhaps. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. The only thing that I think doesn't kind of put it on a par with some of my favourites was because I didn't quite get emotional. I found that there's other ones where I felt myself like getting to the point of feeling sad to the potential of tearing up, or like getting angry about certain characters, or just really rooting for them. There's something that made like an emotional impact, or like I laughed out loud. Whereas this one, I was here for the ride, I had an amazing time, but I didn't quite have that emotional draw that I did with other ones. But all in all, it's a fantastic book and I had a great time. This is part of my magical readathon, and I will be featuring it and talking about it more in depth in a segmented vlog. I haven't done it yet, so it's fine. I then read my biggie book that I've been anticipating for a while, and that is Jen Leon's The House of Always. First of all, need to look at this beautiful teal and appreciate the teal sprayed edges that we have going on here. It was such a joyous surprise when I got this book. I did not realise it was going to have that, so that was delightful. So this is an adult epic fantasy. It is the 4th book in the Chorus of Dragons, which you may have heard me talk about before on this channel. This series is just... I think we've come up, so I'm reading this alongside, well, other people have already read it and they're kind of waiting for me to catch up, whereas there's others in the group that I don't think have got this far. So there's a kind of read when you like, read along going on in the Discord with the Chorus of Dragons. We started it through Shelf Space. And I think we've created our own word for describing the series. I think it's like snarkastic chaos. So that's snarky, sarcastic, and chaotic. So it's snarkastic chaos. So if that sounds like your vibe, this is the series for you. It's like nothing I've read before. So first of all, you have this storytelling device where you have 2 characters in the present, or a few characters. I mean, we get a lot in this one, discussing like retelling their stories, or kind of bringing people up to speed with what's been happening. But you get a couple of different versions, so you're following a few different people, so you've got different bits of the story kind of going on, and then you kind of keep being pulled into present day where they're kind of talking about it and reacting to what they've learned. On top of that, this is being annotated by some people. So the first book is annotated by one person and the second book by another, and they kind of take it in turns. So we're back to the annotator of The Name of All Things again in this one. If you know, you know, and it's amazing. And it's just so funny. Like, all of that just kind of adds to the snarkasm in here. Like, the little asides, and just like when you have a situation where one character is talking about the person who's annotating, and they'll be like, oh, if I knew that one, I knew now. Well, maybe they have a point, or I don't appreciate this. So it's fun kind of hearing their viewpoints on this story as well. Then you kind of have the plot itself, and the plot itself is totally bonkers as well. You've got people who've come back you've got people who've been reincarnated, who are remembering their past lives. You've got people who have body swapped. You've got mimics that can pretend to be other people. You've got deities. You've got like the deities who were like the guardian figures. And then you've got like the deities who kind of like rose to power by people kind of getting people to worship them and kind of giving them their... there's a thing called tenure, which is almost kind of like a life force. So they kind of gain tenure by the more people who worship them and then have their own powers. You've got demons in here. There's just so much in here, and it sounds crazy, and it is, but it's great fun. So if you can kind of go along with, I don't need to know exactly what's going on and be 100% sure of everything, and just embrace the ride and have a fantastic time, you will really love this series. If, however, you're someone who likes to know exactly what's going on, but you don't necessarily want to write your own maps and draw your own family trees, and you like a linear plot, this might not be the series for you. But if any of what I said sounds interesting, please read The Ruin of Kings. It is such a joy. Like, it's an absolute joy. And the characters and their development and their relationships are just wonderful. A few people found that they didn't quite enjoy the plot device as much in the storytelling device as much in this one. They felt it was a little bit forced, but I had so much fun in this one. I think it's, at the moment, it's kind of on a par with Memory of Souls for me. But I can see why you'd like Memory of Souls the best. So like Memory of Souls, there was a lot kind of going on in terms of plot and kind of big things that happened. In this one, there's a lot of character moments. So there's a lot of people having to kind of like face up to things they've done. And you've got characters that we didn't see since the first book that are then kind of in here again. And I've just loved all of the characters' interactions and how they're kind of, there's a lot of, if you're a character person, this is full of character stuff in here. And it's a lot of kind of mental power in this. But I just loved it. I just absolutely loved it. And I love the flaming blah blah, the storytelling device, because it's just so funny when it's like you've just seen someone's, so basically you've kind of got, in the present day, you've got like a good like 10 people in here, and everyone hears the story, and then they're like, oh right, and everyone's like, yeah, sorry, that happened. And then you've got people's like in the moment reactions to finding something out about it, and it's just so delicious. It's just like, yes, give me more. Nom, nom, nom. I will eat it, Jen. I will eat it. Give me all the story drama. I'm having an amazing time. But also, I mean, at the moment it sounds like a really messy drama, and it is, but it's funny. But the plot is also fantastic as well. So like, when I first read Ruin of Kings, I was like, did we need everything at once? Couldn't we just like have got to grips with one bit, and then you could have thrown in some deities, and then you could have thrown in some souls? No. She knows what she's doing. She needs to put all those things in place so that by the time we get to here, we're immersed in this world, and stuff that's happening in here, we can like relate it back to things that have happened. So the way she's plotted it, and the whole rich history that she's drawn from, like, it all adds to the bigger picture, and we're really starting to get to big picture stuff now. So we needed all of that to make sense in here. I'm having a wild ride. I've started Discord of Gods, very small, and I'm excited to be reading it, but that's the 5th one. But at the same time, I'm also worried because that's our last one. And I think I could easily like just reread these again because they're just so much fun, and I just can't wait. She's got a standalone book that's due to be coming out, and yes, I will read everything she writes because this is brilliant. It's just brilliant. I'm just having the best time with this series. Okay, so again, that was another book hangover. I'm like, what? My brain is still processing it. And I partly wanted to jump straight into Discord of Gods, but I was partly like, well, I kind of want to hold back because I want to appreciate like the 4th book as a whole and not blow it into the 5th one. And my brain needs to breathe, and I need to kind of like say hi to my family and not just throw myself back in. So I did my usual strategy, which is to do a reread. And it just so happened that I had the perfect book to do that with, which was Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan, which is the Percy Jackson and the Olympians book 2. And this is my new pretty copy that I treated myself with. And the spines make the skyline, and it's a hardback, and we've got this really cool art on the front of a cyclops kind of looking like it's going to eat this ship. And there we go, we've got this lovely kind of autumnal orange end pages and this nice brown hardcover on the back, and it just feels nice to read. I'm a physical book reader, and it just feels nice when you're holding a book and the pages just feel really nice. And yeah, I'm reading it like this. I'm not a spine breaker, but it's small enough that I can do that quite easily with. It's just very nice. So I have read the Percy Jackson series a few times, but I haven't read it, I'd say, within the last like 5 or 10 years. I can't remember when I last read it fully. So I'm enjoying my reread of it. The first one was June, so it's been a while since I read the first one. So it was high time for me to pick up the second. And yeah, it was absolutely great fun. I really enjoyed. It's so easy to read. Like, it's really just, you're just there. You're just simple, off we go, marvelous. It's kids on a quest. It's brilliant, and you've got demigod Greek magic-y stuff going on, which is fun. You've got an overarching kind of plot happening, and it's just a really kind of nice escapism kind of to relax in here. It does kind of highlight bullying and not making fun of people just because they're different, and not judging someone and being prejudiced towards them. And I know all of that was thrown in for a purpose, and I do think it is good when sometimes our protagonists aren't always the wonderful heroes we think they are, and are, capable of, being embarrassed or kind of like not really wanting to be seen. Oh, where's my voice going? Let's drink some water. Yes. Crocuson. And yeah, and they're like not necessarily wanting to be seen with someone that kind of like makes them look less cool. So I did appreciate all of that. But at the same time, we have a new character in this book. So we have Annabeth, Grover and Percy. Grover is missing. And so Percy and Annabeth are worried about him. And Percy has brought with him to Camp Half-Blood this time a Cyclops. He didn't realise he was a Cyclops. He thought he was a homeless child that was kind of adopted by the school, and nobody really liked him, and Percy kind of stuck up for him, and they kind of did have a bit of a bond. He's called Tyson, and he's so lovely. And definitely by the end of it, Tyson's really kind of come into his own, and he's celebrated. But there were just moments where I just felt like really sad for Tyson, and it just did make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But equally, you know, I'm an adult in my 30s reading this, not like a part of the age group that it's aimed at. But it did, like, I love Tyson. I think he's probably my favourite character. I just think he's fabulous. And yeah, I'm really pleased that he came into the books here. It was lots of fun. Yeah, and we get some of my favourite sort of Greek myth moments in here. I really enjoy the is it Perseus or Odysseus? That I can't remember which one. I always get those two confused because those were the two whose stories I enjoyed the most when I was reading like Greek myths, which is terrible of me. I'm not going to talk about it because I'll be talking twaddle. But there were myths in here that I enjoyed. I think it is Odysseus. Which way do you pronounce it? I think I say Odysseus. I don't know what everyone knows. It's definitely not Ulysses. Romans. But yeah, I say Odysseus. So yeah, we're going to talk about I think it's Odysseus. I enjoy Odysseus' storyline from the Greek myth, and I think we had that with this island with the Cyclops on, and also Circe. So that was really, really fun in here. And I've read the second Percy Jackson series, Heroes of Olympus, I think it is. Yeah. Very similar titles of series. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus. Very, very similar. Anyway, the second series, there is a character we meet who mentions that she was in this book, and so I was on the lookout for her in this one, and I found her. So like that made me feel happy. So yeah, this was a great fun read. And I've just realised my final one I haven't got here in my little collection. So I will go and grab that one shortly. But I've also been reading these two are read-alongs. So I have the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I have Cogheart by Peter Bonsai. So Silmarillion, I think it's a classic. It's quite clear. It's a fantasy classic. Never read it before. There's a buddy read on MJ's Discord, and this is the book pick for this month. It was suggested by Sid from Storytime with Sid. And I'd never read it before. I thought, well, that's a good push for me to read it. So I decided that I was going to read the forwards, and I was going to read the letter and just really immerse myself in it. And it's very interesting, but it's very heavy. It's very dense. And so I've now kind of got more into the story, and I think I'm just at the bit where we finished like having the world was created, and then these are gods that are created. I think we're starting to get to kind of like the elves and the human bits now. So I've been told it should get less dense when we're at those bits. We will see. I'm not trying to keep all the names in my head too badly because I feel it's nice setup to know everything, but I feel once we start getting into the meatier story, I won't necessarily need all of that information, or it will start coming to me. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Because, you know, in mine I'm helpful to have a god list in here, or whatever they're called, Valar, I'm not entirely sure. But I did enjoy kind of the music aspect. So Tolkien's language is very biblical in here. Like I understand that when he wrote Lord of the Rings, it's because he really enjoyed folklore and mythology, and felt very envious of the ancient Greeks and the Celts, that they had such an array of folklore, and England did not, apart from like the Legend of Arthur, but that's not old enough for him. So this is kind of him giving England folklore. So this is him really going from the beginning to like backstory, the whole of like Middle Earth. And I really enjoy how like from his creation he's got like these songs, and so it's like to do with the songs and the music, and then beings kind of came out from, well, don't take my word for it, but I just enjoyed the theme of songs and music kind of as how they were creating things or how they feel the world is going to go. I found that really interesting. And it sounds like he's got a great cast of deities in here, if only I could remember them. And it doesn't help that they changed their names, so it's like this one that was formerly known as this, and it's a lot. So definitely now, if it was written in modern day, there'd be a very helpful list of characters. So my fingers are crossed. I'm trying to do 25 pages a day so I can slowly work through it and be done by the end of September. I can't say I'm enjoying it at the moment, but I'm hopeful and I'm appreciating what he's doing, and I'm appreciating like how he's trying to craft what he's trying to craft. But it's not the easiest to get into, shall we say. What is a lot easier to get into is this middle grade. Middle grade, I had been calling it a fantasy, but I think it's probably better to call it more of a sort of magical realism. It's very much set in our world, and it could be kind of like fantasy. It has sort of like fantasy elements and sci-fi elements in it because of its technology. I think, I don't know my entire sci-fi definitions, but it's set in the Victorian times, and definitely half the stuff in here wouldn't necessarily be working then. But there's a lot of clockwork. I'm loving all the clockwork. Love all of the clockwork in here. So everything kind of, all inventions are kind of run off this concept of clockwork, and our protagonist's father is like a really amazing inventor of clockwork things, and there are beings known as mechs in here. To everyone else they are just classed as machines, but very much to our protagonist Lily and her dad, they are sentient. So we have this wonderful kind of like that AI sentience kind of debate, but it's with clockwork mechs that need to be wound with a key. And I am loving all of this. It's got amazing steampunk vibes in here. It also is giving me a lot of kind of Wolf of Willoughby Chase vibes, if you've ever read that by Joan Aiken. Because we start off within this school and it feels a bit dire, and then you've got this, I mean, the Guardian feels very suspicious that comes in, and then you've got all these wonderful fun characters as well. So yeah, I'm really keen to see where it goes. I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I'm trying to read sort of like a certain amount of chapters kind of each week so I can keep chatting in the we've got a thread on MJ's channel called Cogalong. So we are doing all our Cogheart chats in there, so I'm enjoying like being part of the chat so far. And I know Vidania is also really enjoying this as well. So if you also want to join us for the Cogalong, it's not too late. Go and grab a copy from your library. It's really quick and easy to read, so you can easily pick this one up and then move on to our October one, which is going to be Moonlocket. We're definitely going to be continuing, because unless it does something crazy in like the last part, I'm having a great time with this series. It's really like middle grade joy. It's fabulous. But there's still some very scary moments. Like, it's got some quite like terrifying bad guys. There's lots of like freaky vibes in here and like danger feeling. It's really good. I'm just going to pause and grab the other book. So I have read The Wilful Princess and the Piebald Prince by Robin Hobb. This is a novella. It's kind of a standalone, but it is part of the Hobb world, and it is advised, although I think when she was writing, I don't know when this was published compared to the rest of her series, but it is encouraged that after you finish the Live Ship Traders, which is the second series in the Realm of the Elderlings, read this book before you start the Tawny Man series, which is the third series in the Realm of the Elderling, first book being Fool's Errand, because it has a lot of information about the wit in here, and kind of people's opinions of the wit. So if you've read any Farseer, you know that the wit is this ability to speak and kind of not even speak, it's kind of just converse with animals kind of on a mental level. Like on a cognitive level. I don't know what the best phrasing is, but you could animals trust you, you kind of understand them, and then the more time you spend with certain animals, you will start to develop a bond with one animal, and you will really start sharing yourself with them, and you'll share thoughts, and it'll become like it's kind of like a telepath. There's like a telepathy link between the two, and you can kind of see stuff from their eyes and they can see stuff from yours if you allow it to, but you can control it. You can pull yourself back and pull yourself forward with it. So there's that. So it kind of goes into that a little bit more. And when we first meet Fitz in Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book, the wit is frowned upon within the Six Duchies. Not just frowned upon, I think it's actually like outlawed. I think if you were found to have the wit, you are like really doomed. you could be put to death. It's that frowned upon. It's like thought of as like really bad, like black magic. And so reading this was very eye-opening in terms of kind of where all of the things came from. What I really enjoyed about this is it's very much kind of told as like a minstrel's tale. It's very much kind of like you could feel that you were reading this off a scroll. It's very like a folklore, which I appreciated because I just wanted, it's tiny, I just wanted to just hear a story, and I didn't want to have to hurt myself in the process and kind of feel the emotion too heavily. And I think I mentioned in here that, oh, thank goodness that it wasn't too bad and I wasn't emotionally traumatized. And because I'm not ready for that yet, but I'm saving myself up for Fool's Errand. And Derri, who is the Robin Hobb guru, commented that there was a certain part in here that did I not think that was traumatic? And she had a good point. You know, that would have been incredibly traumatic to the people involved. But reading this, it very much felt like you are set at a distance because of how it's told. You're not like present. You're not developing relationships. You are being told this story. So you don't need to get too close to the characters. Whereas if any of that stuff happened to Fitz or any of those characters, you would be distraught because it's like you know them, they're your friends. So it's kind of like when you read the news and you can be saddened and like angry about things happening to other people further removed from you. But when like you meet someone who's like a survivor of that news story or was like themselves affected by it, or something happens to someone you love and know, you are emotionally invested and like you are then involved within that narrative. Whereas I didn't feel that we were in this, but I was very happy because I liked the breathing space. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the ending. It sounds quite sad. It's not a happy story. It's very kind of what you expect of like the Six Duchies and Farseer and, you know, certain peoples that we have come to know within this world. There's one character that I really liked. You meet them in the second half of the book, and I was moved by the end and their choices, and I thought it was very poetic and beautiful. And I'm not going to say any more because this is I've decided this week I'm not doing spoilers. It's all very non-spoiler, so there we go. But yes, I appreciated the beauty and the poetry of it. It felt right for this tale. There we go. And this is really a beautiful edition. Like, I really love the artwork. Do we know who the artist is? Illustration by Jackie Morris. So I really enjoy Jackie Morris's illustration. So look, start off with that. We've got this beautiful image here of the Wilful princess. There she is. And then all along the pages that we've got these horses around, I don't know if you can see that, around the page number. It does say calligraphy by Stephen Raw. So I don't know if that's considered the calligraphy because there doesn't seem to be any other calligraphy that I would say in here rather than the illustration. So look, we've got this lovely illustrations throughout the book. So that's really nice. So yeah, that is how I'm doing at the moment with my reading. Yes, and I have started the Discord of Gods. I have also started Shadows of Self as well, but literally like both of those I've just literally started because I couldn't quite work out which one I wanted to pick up first. And my mood might change depending if I need a book I can pick up and put down and feel cozy in, or if I'm ready to immerse myself in, oh my goodness, what the hell is going on, fantasy, which I could. So yes, enjoying September, and I hope to see you all again soon. What have you been reading thus far? Have you read any of these? Do you have opinions? You know I love a chat, so get busy in the comments. And also, if you have enjoyed this, feel free to give it a little like, because that's always nice to know that your work is appreciated. This is creative work. I am sharing thoughts. It is in a visual media format. So yeah, happy reading, everyone.